Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Sit comfortably because today we have another set of crazy revenge stories for you. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Sometimes revenge comes from being professional. A couple of years ago, my husband and I moved to his hometown after spending time abroad and starting a business. We needed a job to make ends meet as we grew our business, so we both took a job as a server/bartender at a beautiful historic inn and restaurant in our town. The bosses were an old couple. We realized pretty quickly that the woman of the couple wore the pants and that she had no idea what she was doing. In addition to this, she was a real a-hole. The place was horribly managed in a market where it was impossible not to make money. However, the hours were convenient since the restaurant was only open on a limited schedule, and we were the only servers who didn't have terrible substance abuse issues, so we quickly became the de facto managers. We're both business-minded people, and we started thinking that we could really run the place well if given the opportunity. After being there about 6 months, we made the owners an offer to run the hotel and restaurant for a year for a small salary, but with the potential for a huge bonus at the end of the year, calculated as a hefty percentage of any increase in profit over the prior year. After looking at the numbers, we realized quickly that we had the potential to make a lot of money very quickly with almost no expenses, as we'd be living and eating there too. So when the owners accepted, we hit the ground running, and within 2 months we were on track to quadruple the profits of the previous year. Not to brag, there was some seriously low-hanging fruit. Quickly, however, there were some big problems. We'd been told that we'd get to move into the owner's suite quickly after we got some experience under our belts, but that never happened, so we spent the entire year living in a hotel room. We'd been told that we'd have free reign in decision-making, but continued to be micromanaged like crazy. Just absolutely moronic crap like not putting flat and fitted sheets in the same washer. We thought we knew what we were getting into with our bosses, but they turned out to be crazier than we'd ever anticipated. I could write a book on these people, and I actually am working on one, but for the sake of brevity, I'll just say this. The guy of the couple was nutty, volatile, and sexist, but I would worked for 5 of him before I had to put up with one of his wife. She was all of the above, plus dishonest, greedy, conniving, manipulative, judgmental, haughty, and nearly every other vile attribute you can think up, all with the face of a bulldog eating a lemon. And we lived with them. We were never off the clock, and besides the part of the winter when the hotel was closed for renovations, we had 3 days off the whole year, which we had to fight for tooth and nail. She wouldn't let us hire someone to work the night shift, so with our huge increase in business, this meant that we were often taking calls until 3 or 4 in the morning on in-season weekend nights. We were exhausted and beat down, and even though we were racking up a large sum of money, our other business had a breakthrough, and we knew we couldn't last another year. We really turned the place around in a year. The owners were generally disliked in our small southern town, so we did a huge job in improving the public face of the business. Suddenly, we had a local clientele. We were getting phenomenal reviews. We cleaned out the deadweight staff and retrained the ones worth a damn. The chef, who was also an a-hole, hated the shakeup and being held accountable for the first time ever, so he tried to play hardball with the owners. He pulled a them or me, and we'd made them a ton of money, whereas he'd never had a restaurant year in the black. So he got his walking papers, and we got a way better chef. The business was outpacing our wildest expectations, and we were setting up the following year to be a truly exceptional year as well, even though we knew we couldn't stick it out again. We wanted to do all we could to set them up for success. A month before our contract is up, we told the owners we would not be renewing our contract for the following year. They were shocked. We offered to stick around to help train a new management team and do whatever we could to make a smooth transition. We showed them the numbers, where we could hire a good GM, a restaurant and events manager, and around-the-clock front desk team for less than they would end up paying us for the year. They could sit on their biscuits and take it easy. They said they'd think about it. Come to find out, through offhand little comments, that the lady owner thought we were lazy and weren't working all that hard. She couldn't believe they'd gotten duped into paying us such a huge percentage of the profits. She had no concept of the additional workload that comes with tripling the business levels. They decided to go back to doing it all themselves. I'll say that telling our team that we were leaving was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. A lot of tears were shed, especially from the old-timers who knew how bad it was before we came. There was a bit of Stockholm Syndrome going on in the early days. To the dismay of the owner, I'd also sent emails to all of my contacts, vendors/clients/customers, that we were moving on and that we'd been proud to continue the tradition of excellence. She hadn't wanted me to reach out and just wanted to tell them we were gone when they called, because that's super professional. We said our goodbyes with a fat check in our hands and got the hell out of Dodge. We'd secretly bought a house 5 hours away, so we moved away in a jiffy. Now for revenge. When I realized they didn't want to hire a new management team, we worked on compiling a huge manual for them on all new procedures, all events we'd booked, etc. I convinced them to sit down with me and go over it, but they didn't take it seriously. So I also trained the staff on whatever I could, and that all fell apart immediately. The owner told the staff that we'd let them get lazy and that things would be changing. In her mind, this meant calling up events that had already signed contracts and try to squeeze more out of them, in spite of the fact that we'd nearly doubled the average event value and booked twice the events, and overstaffing servers, who she didn't have to pay much, and understaffing housekeepers, who she did have to pay. Oh, and overtime pay? Doesn't matter that you worked 45 hours, she's not paying time and a half. I'm aware that the last one is illegal, and I've informed the affected employees as such. She was also drinking more than ever and verbally berating both staff and guests. We'd prided ourselves on making our staff feel valued and appreciated, and they were loyal because of it. What she failed to realize was that they were loyal to us, not to the business or to her. So they left. All of them. That great new chef? He quit less than a month after we left. All the waitstaff? They followed suit one by one. The entire housekeeping staff, all of whom had been there for over 4 years, they quit last week. The whole housekeeping staff. It's the middle of the high season, and the owners had to clean 45 rooms. The chef they hired to replace the other chef walked out. Now they've been through 3 chefs in 10 months. The reviews are plummeting. My husband's parents still live in the town, and people often ask about us to wish us well. We left politely and spoke highly of the owners to anyone who would listen. But everyone tells his parents that they couldn't believe we were able to do it for a year. We genuinely wanted the place to succeed and did everything we could to set it up for success. But after they crapped on all the work we did, it's more than a little satisfying to see them finally appreciate how hard we worked. And our next story. I don't work there anymore. My employer decided to convert all of a certain class of our records from paper-based files to digital. There were 3 immediate problems. Our company was not going to buy a generic system, but develop our own unique tailored system. It was to be done cheap, with net savings for record keeping from year 1. The guy in charge, let's call him Genius, always, and I mean always, thought he was the smartest guy in the room. Believe me, he wasn't. Anyway, one of the girls I worked with took on the project on the condition that she could have the next July off for her wedding and honeymoon. She worked hard, and the project was actually making progress. One of her duties was passwords, none of which could be written anywhere because Genius knew this was bad. She periodically reminded Genius about the July wedding, and he told her it'd be fine, but never signed off on the paperwork. Come mid-May, the project is way behind, mainly because Genius told management it could all be done in-house at negligible cost, and Genius kept changing the design every time he read a new magazine article on IT. My friend was then told 6 weeks out from the wedding that her leave was canceled. The project took priority, and she'd just have to reschedule her wedding, honeymoon, the works. Genius just could not see that this might be a problem, so she did her job, updated the passwords as required, never recording them anywhere as required, and resigned without notice on the last day of June. On her honeymoon, she gets a frantic call from Genius demanding all the passwords. Sorry, I don't work there anymore. Click. That's why a decade later, our company still has a few hundred electronic case files we can't access. And our last story. Luxury car dealership wants to treat customer like dirt, ends up washing his car instead. This isn't my story. It happened to my ex-classmate's dad, but it's too sweet of a story not to share. His dad's a pretty wealthy guy and owns his own construction business. My classmate always showed up in fancy clothes and cars. One day, Dad walks into a car dealership. He was interested in buying a Mercedes G-Wagon. He went inside and was ignored for almost an hour while other customers were treated. Eventually, a couple of salesmen approached Dad and asked him what he's doing here. He starts asking about the cars. The salesmen were very dismissive and sarcastic in response to him. It's clear they aren't taking him seriously and begin to leave. Dad becomes irritated and asks what their problem was. They argue for a minute when the manager comes and tells him to leave. He'd just come from work and was wearing slightly dirty jeans, boots, and a t-shirt. He's also a dark-skinned individual. Both of these factors probably made him look lower class in their eyes. Little did they know. A few weeks later, Dad ends up purchasing the car at another dealership. He negotiated free car washes for life as he traded in one of his luxury cars. Apparently, he was able to go to other dealerships in the area who authorized the same thing regarding car washes. Dad ends up going to the first dealership and throws the keys on the front counter. He demanded a car wash. The same manager eventually came by to object, but Dad showed him all the paperwork. He looked a bit shocked and begrudgingly got the process started. Dad's been going back almost every day for car washes. He always cheekily smiles at all the staff members with a crap-eating grin as a greeting, especially the two salesmen. They now just hang their head in shame and walk away whenever they see him. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.